the Acting Minister of Rural Development and Local Government.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to thank all the members who have contributed to this debate today. Before I conclude, I would like to respond to an issue raised by those on the opposite side. Madam Speaker, in my contribution, I gave the timeline for the submission of the report to this Parliament, and I would have shared the 10th report that was submitted to the Minister on June 10th, 2021. The same 10th report was accepted by the Cabinet on July 15th, 2021. The draft order paper was submitted to the Clerk of the House on August 18th, 2021, for laying before the House of Representatives. Madam Speaker, there was absolutely no delay. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member for Chaguanas East referred to the boundaries being changed by the boundaries referred to was the national boundaries, not boundaries of the electoral districts within the electoral areas. On this point, I think the member was misconstrued that what was contributed, and I wish for this to be made clear. Madam Speaker, they have not advanced any real reason why they will not approve the report. And so I can say all this talk is mere fluff to distract from the point that the government has acted within the law. Madam Speaker, I will not go further except to say that our job today is simply to approve the motion put before this Honourable House. As my colleague, the member for Port of Spain South said, we have not changed any recommendations in the report. We have accepted the rules have been applied and that the outcome has been satisfactory. Madam Speaker, we are satisfied that the EBC has discharged its responsibility as an independent body and presented the 10th report and all that is required for this Honourable House to approve the motion, paving the way for the next local government election. This is a requirement of the law and the basis of which the report is prepared and factual. In closing, Madam Speaker, I wish to respond to the comment made by the Member of Parliament to Chaguanas East pertaining to karma in a negative light. Madam Deputy Speaker, I am happy that karma has brought me here today because it allows me to finish what I have started. I am a firm believer that life is a circle, and what goes around eventually comes around. Madam Speaker, it is fitting that I conclude this debate with karma in mind. This opportunity allows me to make good on the purpose for which I have been selected when I first became the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government in 2016. My purpose then was to deliver the local government reform, which I did, all through the Joint Select Committee sittings to the presentation of the Miscellaneous Provision Local Government Reform Act, which was passed in July 2022, mere months after I left the ministry. Madam Speaker, I want to recommend to this Honourable House the adoption of the 10th report of the Elections and Boundaries Commission under the Municipal Corporations Act and the Elections and Boundaries Commission Local Government Tobago House of Assembly Act for the purpose of local government elections. Also, I want to encourage those on the other side, the opposition, to support the motion and there's nothing for them to oppose. They want an election, and this paves the way. Having said this, Madam Speaker, I could speak about my role as a daily paid worker at the San Fernando Corporation for over 20 years, as a councillor for over 9 years, as a mayor for 3 years, as a minister of rural development and local government for 6 years, and I could go on. But today is the day, Madam Speaker, I have come here and I beg to move to this motion.
Honourable members, the question is, be it resolved that the draft of the Elections and Boundaries Commission, Local Government and Tobago House of Assembly Order 2021 be approved. All in favour say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it. Bills, second reading. The Prime Minister.
I had indicated that we would not be moving on to Bill's second reading to the clerk, not this clerk.
So, Leader of the House.
Yes, thank you very kindly. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do now adjourn to Friday, the 27th day of March at 1:30 p.m. And at that time, it will be Private Members' Day, and I would ask the member for point of pair to indicate which matter we will be dealing with.
24.
The 24th. The 24th. Yes, sorry, ma'am. Friday, the 24th of March at 1:30 p.m.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. The opposition will be doing motion number 6 on today's order paper brought by the member for Chaguanas East.
Honourable members, there are 2 matters that qualify to be raised on the motion for the adjournment of this House. I now call upon the member for Chaguanas East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand to raise a matter on the adjournment, which reads as follows. The need for the government to address the pressing issues related to access to medical care for young persons living with physical/developmental challenges. Madam Speaker, let me from the onset firmly state that the highlighting and piloting of this matter to the public via the audiences available through this August House is clearly not intended or designed to score any political points, but rather seeks to awake the authorities from their institutional slumber. Madam Speaker, therefore, its intent and purpose is for the government to acknowledge and urgently institute measures, systems, processes, or whatever is immediately required in order to at best ensure the plight of those young people afflicted with physical or developmental challenges. Madam Speaker, referring to matters physical or developmental challenges encompasses physical or developmental disabilities. The current social trend, however, to avoid the reference to disabilities and rather use the term challenges. Therefore, in this context, I wish to provide a definition of disability or challenge as follows. The inability to affect an activity within the acceptable, normal, prescribed range for a human being. Madam Speaker, I want to reference an article in the Trinidad Guardian dated Tuesday, June 2nd, 2015, wherein Mr. David Bratt categorized disabilities into the following. Madam Speaker, he made reference to physical, which he described as visual, auditory, and mobility. He made reference to medical, which he described as diabetes, epilepsy, or cancers. Psychological, which he described as mental retardation, emotional disturbances, dyslexia, and other learning disabilities and phobias. Developmental, which he described as autism, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and he also made mention of hidden disabilities, which he described as mild forms of the above. Madam Speaker, some may ask what the trigger event for raising this matter. Madam, in recent times, my constituency office was approached by a number of parents whose children exhibited and was afflicted with such conditions which was enunciated above. However, what really stirred my emotions and brought utmost astonishment coupled with anger and helplessness was a particular case. A child was referred by the general practitioner at the Shogunas Health Facility to the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex, Pediatric Development Unit on August 22nd, 2022, for suspicion of autism, Madam Speaker. They visited Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex on the said August 22nd, 2022, got an appointment for Monday, 17 July 2023, almost 11 months after the initial visit, and was told that they are speeding up the process. In the interim, on February 15, 2023, this child was knocked down in front of a home because she tends to run off, right? And suffered injuries to head, shoulders, and upper body with greater damages to her legs, hospitalized on February 15th to March 1st, 2023. At a scheduled clinic visit on March 20th, 2023, the parent was advised that due to the complication arising from the broken leg, that no surgical procedure can be undertaken at present and for a possible 3 to 4 months, thus coinciding with her future appointment. Would this, Madam Speaker, not impact on her scheduled autism determination appointment for Monday, 17 July 2023? Despite all of the above, she still has not been evaluated for autism. And only this morning, I received a letter concerning same from the Minister of Social Development and Family Services regarding her disability grant approval. How brutal, Madam Speaker, how inhumane, callous, and barbaric. Whoever is responsible for this debacle, I hope they shed a tear or even wept for such atrocities to these potentially, physically, developmentally challenged children. Madam Speaker, this is not a one-off situation. I want to quickly make mention of another article which is headlined, "Rejected and Forgotten by Society," with an opening line, "Decades of Abandonment for Developmentally Disabled Persons." I am pleading with this government, Madam Speaker, have a heart. Please do something that will benefit these affected individuals. Are we shedding a tear for some issues? Whilst that is indeed noble, what is required in this situation is a cascade of never-ending torrential teardrops because of this horrible, inhumane, devoid of compassion. There is no adjectives, Madam Speaker, to describe this shambolic experiences by challenged young persons. Madam Speaker, what are the facts? Approximately 18% of children in Trinidad and Tobago have some sort of disability or challenge, which represents 60,000 at any given time. What is available in the system to address their learning and behavioral problems? Many of them cannot read or write, and therefore, we in this chamber, by allowing it to fester unattended, is therefore responsible for condemning them to a life of failure, misery, and hopelessness. Madam Speaker, we shouldn't shed a tear. We should be sustain for something like this, if we understand what that means. Madam Speaker, my objective for raising this matter is for the government and authorities to urgently review and implement some short-term strategies, thus ameliorating this fiasco. I call upon the government to immediately establish a task force with the requisite cross-functional competencies to undertake a critical, comprehensive review. There's no time to waste, Madam Speaker. We cannot continue to squander away valuable human capital in this land because of incompetence and negligence, as palpably demonstrated by this PNM government. Madam Speaker, with that being said, I thank you.
The Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Just to confirm, I have 10 minutes, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, it is a pity that the member took such an important issue and politicized it. It is regrettable, and it does not serve the public, nor the parents, nor the patients that the member so cares about. If one reads the motion, the need for the government to address pressing issues related to access to medical care for young persons living with physical and developmental challenges. Let me state from the onset, there is absolutely no barrier to anybody in Trinidad and Tobago accessing medical care. As a motion, I could respond to the motion. Trinidad and Tobago adheres to the principles and practices of universal access for health services as a standard policy throughout the length and breadth of this public free healthcare system. There is no barrier due to physical and development challenges or any other barrier of that matter. Anyone, including young persons with physical and mental challenges, can access a range of primary, secondary, and tertiary services across their lifespan. We start to treat and look at these issues from conception via scanning, gestation, neonatal care, infant care, and so on. And it's a government responsibility working through the Ministry of Health, other ministries, as I will elucidate, like sport, social development, and NGOs to adopt an integrated approach to treating and make sure that there is no barrier to medical care. In this system, one does not need insurance as other systems. There is no co-payment. There is no cap. There is no discrimination, stigma. But there is societal discrimination and stigma. And that is something we have to overcome. Madam Speaker, development disabilities can be classified as autism spectrum disorder, behavioral disorders, brain injuries, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, fetal alcohol syndrome, intellectual disabilities, spina bifida, and others. And they could affect the patient's physical development, cognitive development, and emotional development. The Ministry of Health acknowledges that we need an integrated approach to treat with these children, as opposed to people like myself and people without those challenges, more integrated. Some of the services available at our health institutions free of charge are child development clinics, pediatric clinics, child guidance clinics, mental health clinics, dental services, medical social workers. And you see, the member lost a golden opportunity because the member focused on one or two cases. What about the other thousands of cases that are treated? And I will give you the figures. Do you know we do things like swallowing rehabilitation to teach these children simple things, how to swallow? Because we take that for granted. It's a reflex for us. That's what we do in this public healthcare system. Auditory screening, eye screening. Madam Speaker, through the Ministry of Health, we fund the Autistic Society of Trinidad and Tobago, 800 families, to the tune of $500,000 per annum. But the member would not say that. Where persons with autistic disorders across the spectrum are exposed to music, drama, and more importantly, counseling for parents. Does the member know that? We also support Horses Helping Humans, $500,000. Again, autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and other genetic and development disorders. We support the Princess Elizabeth Center. Recently, I opened the new operating theater, new wing, new elevator. What do we treat there? Poor patients with scoliosis, orthopedic disorders. They have walk-in clinics, but the member would not speak about that. Let me give you the figures. In March, up to 2023, Princess Elizabeth dealt with 167 patients. For 2022, 846. For 2021, 857. For 2022, 777. And for 2019, 987. But the member lost an opportunity to talk about this. What is the whole of government, whole of society approach? Ministry of Sport. A program called Play Able Caribbean, where we have adapted physical education programs. And they're going to 12 special needs schools. It's not only the Ministry of Health. The Trinidad and Tobago Paralympics, Parasport, they deal with 6 main disability categories, including 1, amputees, cerebral palsy, intellectual disability, the visually impaired, spinal injuries, and others. The Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, NGOs, Goodwill Industries, National Center for Persons with Disabilities, Lady Hochschild Centers of Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago Association for Hearing Impaired, Trinidad and Tobago Blind Welfare Association. This is what Trinidad and Tobago does. Free of charge. You don't need insurance. You don't need copay. Madam Speaker, it goes further than that. At the University of the West Indies, at the undergraduate and postgraduate levels, medical interns and doctors are trained in these issues. So when they come out to Southwest RHA, we have a special filter clinic for children at the A&E. And in 2021, 2022, we saw at Southwest in their clinics 1,511 patients free of charge to patients. At North Central RHA, for 2021-2022, total visits at their clinics, 1,247. Is it perfect? No. But which system anywhere in the world is perfect? Which system? At the TRHA, at their speech and language therapy clinics, 2013 to 2023, 391 patients. And Madam Speaker, each patient gets 16 sessions. 16 sessions. Let me educate the member as to what we do again. Because you see, the member, as I said, trivialized a very important issue. Trinidad and Tobago Blind Welfare Association, they do a lot of work with the visually impaired. I don't have time to go through the whole list. We do things like auditory screening. We do things like community pediatrics. We do that. We do work with children with autism. At the Ministry of Education, they also do work. Madam Speaker, the list goes on and on and on and on. Southwest Regional Health Authority, psychiatric mental health services, because mental health services is important. Appointments attended at the Child Guidance Clinic for the period 2019-2023. To see psychiatric social workers, listen to this figure, 1,686. But the member would not recognize that. Seeing psychologists free of charge, 378. Seeing psychiatric social workers, 742. Thousands and thousands of children are benefiting. Is it perfect? No. But it's a lot better than what exists in so-called first world countries, where if you don't have insurance and you don't have money, you can't even see a medical social worker. Secondary care pediatric surgical services 2019, 220, urology pediatric workshop, and the list goes on and on. So, Madam Speaker, as my time draws an end, I want to tell the member, do not play politics with a serious emotional issue like this. We can do better than that. As indicated by your absence at the swearing-in of the 7th president, you do not put country first. Thank you very much.
Member for Vancouver South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is ironic that I move this motion on the adjournment, or this matter on the adjournment, when today is World Water Day 2023, and the headlines in today's newspapers: court orders water provider to compensate woman after leaking main destroys home. WASA must pay $2 million. Madam Speaker, the reality is this is not politics. Calcutta 123 Central Park, Balmain, Bokaro, Nadira Gardens, Dog Village, old and new settlements do not have any water and an inconsistent supply since 2020. And the minister cannot deny what I am saying. It is not fabricated, it is not politics. I wrote him since 2023, and I have the bundle of documents to provide or to support what I am saying. Madam Speaker, I just want to...
So, honorable members, I know the member for Vancouver South has the ability to drown us all out. I don't want him to show us his abilities, so I'll ask members to observe Standing Order 53 and contain the volumes and the crosstalk so that the member for Vancouver South can be gentle on all our ears.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll try to be as gentle as I can. As I said, while the global community is reflecting on World Water Day, I want to take the opportunity to put on the record calls, WhatsApp messages, texts, and emails that I've received pleading and begging for water into their homes. Because, as I said, I will not call names, but I will indicate the areas and the messages. On the 3rd of November 2022, a gentleman from Calcutta, number 2, and I quote, "Can you find out what's going on with WASA and with water in the Freeport area? No water for the past 10 days, end of quote. On the 12th of December, a lady from Temple Street, Dow Village, New Settlement, and I quote, "Hi, good day, Mr. Endar Singh. We have no water and desperately need the same. Do you know how we can get some?" On the 23rd of January 2023, a lady from a Black Trace, Bokaro, "Hi, Mr. Endar Singh. I would appreciate your assistance in getting some water. I have been without water for more than 10 days and was unable to send my kids to school today as a result." 6th of February 2023, "Good morning, Rudy. How are you? Sorry to bother you, but Mango Trace has no water for 10 days and our tanks are empty." The 19th of February 2023, "Good afternoon, my MP. You would have known of the water problems we are experiencing. We have absolutely no water. Can you assist in getting some truck-borne waters for us in Dow Village?" On the 11th of March 2023, from a constituent of 233 Calcutta Road, number 3, McBain, Couva, "Haven't received water in 12 days. Calcutta number 2, Freeport, another constituent. We have been calling WASA hotline for several days, but no answer. The 12th of March 2023 from Church Street, Calcutta, number 2, Freeport. Good morning, sir. I am one of your constituents of Calcutta Road number 2. We are begging you, please help us with the water crisis. We have absolutely no water for 2 weeks. We have requested truck burn for over a week and still no water delivered. And I will read two of the last messages. I have a bundle, but time would not permit me, Madam Speaker. On the 14th of March 2023, Calcutta Road number 2, WASA told me we would get water today. A little bit came yesterday, but it was dirty and no water today. And from the bordering constituency of Caroni Central, from the Swaha Presal ECC Center, has no water. Calling WASA is not profiting because no one answers the phone. Kindly requesting water for the school facility, which is located at 5A Maula Road, Presal. We currently have 28 children and 5 members of staff at school. We are kindly seeking your assistance with getting water. Madam Speaker, that is the reality of where we are today in the constituency of Couva South, and by, should I say, the bordering constituencies of Tabakit, Pointe-à-Pierre, Caroni Central, Caroni East, and I think I could definitely and categorically say it is throughout Trinidad and Tobago. There is a water crisis. There is a water crisis, Madam Speaker. And at the end of the day, what I have read into the record here is not unpatriotic, is not uncaring. It is law-abiding citizens who have been paying their bills on a timely basis to WASA, and the government of Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, and we have to understand what has happened here, because successive ministers, 7 years, 7 into the 8th year of governing Trinidad and Tobago, and the citizens of this country cannot get their basic right in terms of water into their homes via their taps. You had Minister Ansel Antwine, you had Minister Robert Lehunt, you had Minister Fitzgerald Hines, you had Minister Marlene MacDonald. The Prime Minister even held the portfolio of the Minister of Public Utilities at one point in time. And then you have Minister Marvin Gonzalez. I could say much more, but I will keep my adjectives and my descriptive language in a very responsible manner here this evening, Madam Speaker. Because it is the minister must answer why this untenable situation has existed, because, or has come to the fore. Because if you do a survey throughout all the areas that I have named in this matter on the adjournment of the House, Madam Speaker, they will tell you that between May of 2010 and September of 2015, there was water, a 24-hour supply, a daily water supply, and what has changed in the since 2015, Madam Speaker? That is the question. Is it political discrimination? Is it geographic discrimination? Or is it sheer incompetence in terms of who is leading the Ministry of Public Utilities, Madam Speaker? And you know what is misleading, Madam Speaker? And they will come and tell you, and they will want to ramager and expatiate, but their propaganda will not work, because at the end of the day, people want water, in the words of Calypsonian Iowa George. And if the minister is reflective in terms of the history of Trinidad and Tobago, there was a water riot in this country previously. Historically, I don't want to go into the history of this place in terms of where I'm speaking, on currently from Madam Speaker, but the water rights was linked. And today, they will want to tell us, the minister will want to tell us that WASA restores the water supply to central areas via their media releases and so on, and will probably want to quote from a headline in the newspaper, WASA responds to Indar Singh's letter and restores the water supply. That is the furthest thing from the truth, Madam Speaker, because up till today, whilst I sat in this very parliament, constituents continue to send WhatsApp messages virtually begging, virtually groveling to get a water supply, and the minister and WASA they have no answers. And you know what is even mind-boggling?
Member, the time is now spent.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Minister of Public Utilities.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is very timely that this motion was filed and the opportunity I have to respond to the concerns raised by my friend from Couva South, which of course are very serious concerns, especially when it comes to water and the supply of water to citizens and communities who are impacted by poor water supply from our only water provider, which is the Water and Sewerage Authority. Madam Speaker, it is also timely because today, as the member pointed out, is World Water Day, and the world all over, particularly in New York, where the United Nations convened a special meeting to look at the issue of water and water sustainability to all citizens of the world, and predicting that if collective actions are not taken by all nations of the world, over 3 billion people by 2030 will not have access to potable water. And therefore, it is an issue that all countries must come together with their experts, professionals, etc., to work together collaboratively to solve the problems of water supply to all citizens of this world. Even today, Madam Speaker, I had the opportunity to give the feature address at the first ever water loss conference to be held in the Caribbean. And this conference was held and is being held at this point in time at the Trinidad Hilton. A number of professionals and delegates from around the world visiting our shores, over 300 of them, recognizing the commitment of the government of Trinidad and Tobago to bring about transformation in the water sector, and coming here to lend their support, to add their voice, to work with some of the professionals and the experts in the water sector as we seek to bring about a sustainable water supply to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. As a matter of fact, I was even more heartened, Madam Speaker, to see members of Parliament, especially members of Parliament on this side, members of the Senate on this side, as well as independent senators. And of course, Madam Speaker, I am a PNM minister that conduct myself with dignity in public office. And I extended an invitation to my friends on the other side, and not one of them had the decency and the dignity to attend to this inaugural conference on water and in Trinidad and Tobago. Not one of them. And therefore, whilst I am not prepared to say that the member for Couva South is playing politics, Madam Speaker, with the issue of water supply in his constituency, but I listened to him attentively, and I was wondering at what point in time in his presentation he would have recognized that the work of some of the workers at the Water and Sewerage Authority who would have responded to some and many of his requests for water truck supplies to his constituents over the period that he mentioned, Madam Speaker. And not once he mentioned it. As a matter of fact, it reminded me of a political leader of his party. And I never looked at the member for Couva South in this way. I never thought in my short political career thus far, Madam Speaker, I would have seen a political nimakaram. But after listening to the member for Couva South, I am convinced I am convinced that we do have political nimakarams. We do have. Madam Speaker, let me tell you this. The constituency of Couva South and surrounding constituencies are served by wells from the Freeport well field. They are also served from the Desalcott water, the desalination plant, as well as water from the Caroni water treatment plant. I am putting that into context, Madam Speaker. The Freeport water treatment plant at this point in time produces 2.1 imperial million gallons of water, with a water deficit of 2 million gallons of water on a daily basis. And that has been like that, unlike what the member said, it has been like that for 15 years. The Freeport water treatment plant has been producing water at a water deficit of 2 million gallons of water per day. And therefore, the water going into that Freeport area, into his constituency, is being supplemented from Desalcott and water from the Caroni water treatment plant. Water from the Caroni water treatment plant, Madam Speaker, 40 imperial million gallons of water per day. Water from Desalcott, 25 million gallons of water per day, 65 million gallons of water. And Madam Speaker, WASA is a customer of Desalcott. And therefore, when we have issues at the Desalcott plant, where there's a reduced production, it prevents the utility company from meeting its regular schedules on a daily basis. It is not WASA's fault. WASA is a customer of Desalcott, and they know that. Desalcott is contracted to produce 40 million gallons of water per day. And if there is an issue at Desalcott where they are producing 5 and 10 million gallons of water per day, unfortunately, Madam Speaker, thousands of customers in Central and South Trinidad, their water supplies are impacted. And that is an untenable situation that I, as minister, and this government is not comfortable with. And that's the reason why we have undertaken over the last 4 years to bring about wholesale transformation in the water sector. That is the reason why we went to the IDB and recently get a loan to improve water supply, to drill wells all over the country, especially targeting areas that are getting water under 2 and 3 days per week. And Madam Speaker, I am proud to say that we have identified 6 wells for drilling in the Freeport area, and those wells are already being drilled, and we have already identified a number of pipelines which have been disrupted over the last 3 weeks or so, which prevented WASA from meeting its schedules. And under the IDB program, we have identified a number of strategic pipelines so that we can undertake rehabilitation to stabilize and improve the water supply to the people of Freeport and Couva South. Madam Speaker, calls from the Member of Parliament. Yes, he is right. I received over 20 requests from the Member of Parliament, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I responded to every one of them. I responded to every single one of them, and I provided it to the water, and I demanded that they provide the people. But he stood there. He stood there, Madam Speaker, and he never acknowledged once, Madam Speaker. I have a report in my hands where over that period of time, over 178 water truck supplies was provided to the people of Couva South to deal with the shortfall of water supply. Madam Speaker, in that report, California, Couva, Freeport, Calcutta number 1, Calcutta number 2, over 178 truck-borne supplies were provided to the people of Couva South during this period of difficulty. So therefore, when the member comes to Parliament and say that WASA did not and is not providing a reliable water supply to the people of Couva South, I call him a political nimakaram. And I grew up in a town of Paramin, and I was always told that ungratefulness is worse than witchcraft.
Honorable members, the question is that this House do now adjourn to Friday, March 24th, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned to Friday, March 24th, 2023 at 1:30 p.m.